Alright, what's going on, guys? Trev back again, here to bring you another video. This one will be doing another Walking Dead / Fear the Walking Dead video for the Walking Dead universe. We'll give our thoughts on this one of whether or not the Rick connections in Fear the Walking Dead should have simply just been in the Walking Dead series instead. Alright, and spoiler warning if you are not caught up for both the Walking Dead original series as well as Fear the Walking Dead. So we've seen quite a bit of setup now in Fear the Walking Dead with Althea connecting the current Fear the Walking Dead storyline with the Walking Dead movie. Which is really strange to see because I think a lot of us thought that after Rick left the original Walking Dead series in Season 9, Episode 5, we would then see some more connections and some more things from him afterwards that would kind of tie into the movies. But instead, that's not what they did. They didn't do that at all. They basically, after Rick left, they did the huge time skip, and they basically made it a piece of conversation between Michonne and Daryl and some of the others that... Rick, they've been looking for Rick and they couldn't find any trace of him at all. Of course, we also know, too, that the Junkyard Group, once Jadis left, was defunct. It was done, right? The Junkyard Group was finished. So they're really, if you think about it, it's kind of cool, too. It kind of fits in nicely because there would have been no reason for the Helicopter Group to really go back there to the same location during those 6 years of that time skip. The group that was feeding them survivors for them to do whatever they're doing with them, Jadis's group, was finished. It was done, and even her leaving means that there was zero members of that Junkyard Group still around. So the helicopter, going there, going back, probably would have stopped at that point, considering there was no pickup location. There was no... nothing of importance there. So it certainly makes sense. So what they opted to do instead was to kind of use Fear the Walking Dead and sort of this journey that the Fear the Walking Dead group is on to go out there and help people and have that tie into the helicopter group that took Rick. So this one for me is it's fun to kind of see. I'm happy to see that they're using Fear more and they're giving more things to Fear, but I'm not sure entirely how everyone else is kind of feeling about that because I think it's helped Fear. It's helped to improve Fear the Walking Dead. I don't think it's really hurt the original Walking Dead series too much. We did maybe want to see a little bit more after Rick had kind of left of things kind of focused and centered around him, but of course that will continue in the movies anyway. So it sort of was a breaking point, almost like the final episode of the original Walking Dead series up to episode 5 of season 9. Sort of like an end. Feels like it's ending, and now episode 5 for Fear the Walking Dead. Season 5 is called The End of Everything, so it's kind of a neat title for it. We'll have to see how that relates to Althea and the group of Commonwealth soldiers that are there, and the one that has her at gunpoint in episode 5. But I'm wondering how you guys feel about this. Leave a comment below and let me know just how you're feeling all around about them putting this important content, because it is important stuff for the Commonwealth's introduction, or the helicopter group of villains introduction, in Fear instead of in the original series. Ties in nicely and everything and gives Fear more value, but again, kind of the old argument of taking away from the original to give to Fear and kind of doing it the way they've done it. So it's not the usual way that you would have expected to see it. You wouldn't have expected to see a lot of Rick stuff in Fear, but that is, in fact, what we're seeing is the actual introduction of this group that took him is kind of being more in Fear than it was in the original Walking Dead, aside from Jadis and her, her giving us some details about the group kind of coming and picking Rick up and getting to see that play through. But since then, this is the most stuff we've had centered around Rick. Even though Rick isn't there, it's the group that took him, so it's giving us the most info we have since he left in season 9 of the Walking Dead series. So even though they've kind of put a lot of these things in there in Fear the Walking Dead, they've had Dwight cross over, they've done this, they've really made Fear the Walking Dead more of a Walking Dead series than it ever was before. In terms of the U.S. Viewership of ratings for the series, which I try not to go into too much, nowadays with Fear because, it's down, right? But it's under 2 million U.S. viewers per episode. They even have stopped doing Talking Dead now for Fear the Walking Dead. It does make me think about how much demand is there to continue Fear the Walking Dead? And I hope it's for many years to come. It's still probably one of their highest rated series and still probably doing just fine based on what they put into it in order to produce it, because obviously it's nowhere near the juggernaut that the original Walking Dead series is in terms of production and in terms of viewership and everything. It seems like it's always going to be half or less than half of what the original series does. So however many people watch the original Walking Dead series, if it's 5 million or 10 million or whatever, Fear the Walking Dead has kind of normalized itself to be about half of that audience or a little less from what we've kind of seen. And, things have not really gone up this season for them, even though they've done all those things like Dwight and like the Commonwealth Rick tie-in and everything. But from a quality perspective, I think that they've done a really good job of adding all that. I think Fear the Walking Dead this season has been very high quality, some of the highest quality the series has had, right up there with Season 3 as its best season up until now, probably. The first half of Season 4, which I did think was actually really good. I was sad to see what they did in the mid-season finale, but I think the first half of Season 4 of Fear was really great. And then, of course, the second half of it kind of wasn't quite as good. But I think this half for Fear the Walking Dead so far, Season 5, has been better than most of the stuff they've actually done in the series, at least for me. It's right up there with Season 3, and I would not be surprised if Season 5 actually surpassed Season 3 for me, considering, getting to see Dwight, Morgan, and now even the Rick villain stuff, like the villains that took him. It's really added a lot to Fear, and I just kind of want to hear what you guys think about that. So I think it's good for Fear. They're giving Fear about the best chance it could possibly have. They've given several Walking Dead characters to it. They've put the Rick villains that took Rick, more information about them in this season instead of in the original Walking Dead series. They're doing basically everything they can do to make Fear successful. I think they avoided Game of Thrones premiere, so that was smart. I think they're doing everything right, and now it's just up to demand and whether or not people still are interested in watching Fear during the summer, late spring, and just what that is. Maybe it'll do better next year because there won't be a Game of Thrones on, and they can have Fear Season 6 start right after The Walking Dead ends if Fear gets renewed for Season 6, which I think it's going to, but we'll have to see what ends up happening with that ultimately. James Anderson says, for the Q&As for today, we'll do this first Q&A video for Fear this week, mostly around Fear, but they're all kind of connected now anyway, so Fear is Walking Dead more than ever now. Will Skidmark the cat survive Season 5? Skidmark better survive Season 5, right? Everybody thumbs it up. I think so. Yeah, Daryl's got his dog. Daniel's got Skidmark, or now I guess Charlie has Skidmark, which is fun. And yeah, he better survive Season 5. I would hope so. Okay, Skate says, cats are weird, dude. They will F you up. Cats are actually pretty tough. They're smaller, but if cats get serious, if you've ever seen alley cats fight for real, it can get nasty. If you see a couple of alley cats really go at it, like fight over food or something, let's say they're both hungry and they're fighting over territory or food, and they really go at it, man, it's bad. It can be really, really bad. You probably want to separate it up, because a lot of times cats are nice and everything, but that's if they're well fed and all that. If you take one that's starving and you put some food and you put another one, same situation, oh man, they will really go at it, and they'll tear each other a new one. They'll cut their claws, and if they're not declawed, their claws, and oh man, they can. Yeah, if they get serious, it can be nasty. So Skidmark is a fan favorite already, I think. ChrisMackTalks says, Daniel said he has to go help a friend. Okay, hear me out. What if he's actually helping out Madison? We technically never saw Madison die. We just assume she did. What if Daniel found her and helped her out? So I don't think it fits. I am under the impression that Madison is dead for good, and we're never going to see her again. I think that Kim Dickens has been cast in another new series, I think as kind of like a lead or a prominent character from what I was reading. I can't think off the top of my head what the name of the series is, but she's got other roles, she's got other stuff going on. I don't think they'll bring Madison back. I don't think so. It'd be cool, you're right, we never saw her die. It could be a dumpster type situation, but I think we are to assume that Madison is in fact dead. I'm not as mad about it now as I was then, because they've added in all these other characters and they've done all this great stuff that it feels like it's not quite as bad. They've also withdrawn a little bit from making it the Morgan and Friends show that it felt like it was in the second half of Season 4, which I think didn't work. I think they've done a really good job this season of making it more of an ensemble type of show, and if anything, making it feel like Alicia and Morgan are kind of on the same platform. Like they're at the same level. Morgan is not, more important than Alicia. They're neck and neck right there. If anything, sometimes Alicia feels a bit more important than Morgan, and Morgan feels a bit like an advisor to her, right? So I think they've really fixed that up, and they've done a great job with that. Again, I think they're doing everything right they can do, and now it's just going to be up to whether or not the series is going to work and continue, and I hope it does, and I think they have every intention to continue it, so I'm happy to see that. I'd like to see Fear go on for many more years if they can keep doing it like this. It's certainly more preferable that they're creating more Walking Dead content than other series that have just ended and not produced anything. Sometimes people complain about stuff with Walking Dead with AMC. Well, a lot of times they do, but it's better than nothing. It's better than if they just don't use the property at all and they don't give the fans anything. A series would have to be it's got to be pretty bad to the point where you would rather it not even have been released. Like, it's got to be really bad to the point where you're like, I wish they didn't even do this at all. I don't think Fear is that bad to the point where people are saying, I wish they didn't do this, right? Maybe some people, because they don't really like it, but it's kind of a series that people like to hate on, I think, too. And I don't think it always deserves the hate. Season 3 got hate, too, and it was amazing. So, it's just kind of like it's popular to hate on it, but I don't think it always deserves it. So for Chris, I don't think we'll see Madison again. I could be wrong, but just based on what we're seeing right now, I don't think so. It could work. It could be really cool if they were able to do that somehow, but I don't think they're going to do it, man, based on the real life circumstances. And they did kind of confirm that she was dead too on Talking Dead, so that's kind of like, if they do it, they're going to go back on their confirmation and they lose credibility with what they say a little bit, which, I mean, whatever, that's not that important, especially considering they don't have Talking Dead on now, right? Except for the finale and the premiere, it sounds like. Gabriel Blume says, Trev, what would you think if Fear Season 5 ends with Morgan and Dwight, or with the entire Fear cast go willingly or forced to go with the helicopter group or helicopter people that took Rick to set up the first Rick movie, and Fear ends or continues on with Morgan and Dwight? Your thoughts, Trev? So, any other further crossovers like that feels like special treatment for Fear, and they're giving some good stuff to Fear, because that's something everybody wants to see. The thing is that how many people during the spring and summertime right now are interested in that? I think most of the audience of The Walking Dead, they look forward to watching the original series. They view Fear as something additional, but they don't. Casual fans are not hardcore enough to watch Fear, is I think the deal. Even when they give them something to watch it for, like Morgan crossing in and all this other stuff, it helps a bit, but ultimately it seems to be something where, because they started them off separate and they didn't have it kind of be a spin-off in the beginning, because they did it that way, I think it disjointed a bit. They've closed the gap and tried to help it as much as they can. I guess we should just be happy at this point that Fear is even still on in its 5th year. Because Z Nation ended with Season 5, right? And a lot of other series don't make it 5 years. So I think it's really good for Fear that they've done whatever they needed to do, remix it, whatever, in order to try to make it work to what they wanted, right? So that's good. But yeah, man, Don Stanley says, Trev, do you feel like this season of Fear is not flying by like the fast-paced original Walking Dead series because of all the awesome content? Well, what they're doing is they've really put a lot into Fear this year, it looks like. They've got a lot of different storylines happening concurrently or simultaneously. Different locations, different people offshot in 2 groups of pairs, and what else? And it does feel pretty epic. It feels pretty big. You have them separated off. It's going to be lower budget, I think, than the original Walking Dead series. I mean, I think that's obvious, right? I think we all know that Fear doesn't get the same budget as the original show does it? Right? I wouldn't think so. I'd be shocked if it did. I don't think it does. But they've done some really cool stuff with it, and I feel like is it going by fast paced? Well, it's going by, but it's providing a lot of different things that really I didn't expect to see in it. I didn't expect to see this much concentration on the helicopter group with Rick in it, and I feel like it's substantial. I feel like it's substantial by itself, and for that I'm really, really happy. A couple more. Shrugs the straight face clown says, Daryl has a dog, Daniel has a cat, the governor had human heads in fish tanks. Maybe Rick might have a ferret in his movies. So I like that one. And the last one will be from Grizzly Scalp 950, who says, Dwighty is back in the cut. Now we have a squad. And yeah, man, let's go into that a little bit before we wrap up here. Fear the Walking Dead's roster has gotten way better. I mean, it's compared to what they had they have way more characters now that are important. Even if you look at one of the things about Season 2 and second half Season 2 and maybe Season 3, there weren't that many characters. I like Taka and I like some of the ones they added in Season 3. But there were times when Fear felt pretty small in terms of the roster. Definitely it does not feel small now. It feels like you have a lot of good characters. They're well developed. A lot of stuff's going on. And it's I think it's working out really well with what they're trying to do. Now it's just up to the audience and to see how many people are interested in it and want to continue watching it. And, we'll see how that goes. I'm also intrigued to see next year when they add on the additional spin-off series for The Walking Dead, whether or not that will, how many viewers that will get compared to Fear and compared to the original series. I can't imagine it would do much better than Fear is doing, but you never know when you release a new show. It's got some buzz around it, and people are hyped to see it because it's new and, fancy and all that stuff. So we'll see how that goes and how many more years they get out of Fear. I hope we get a Season 6. It's not confirmed yet, but I hope we do. That's it for this video, guys. If you liked it, please thumb it up below. You can share. You can favorite. If you're new, subscribe at the bottom left. And I'll see you guys back again soon for another Walking Dead video. As always, it's Trev, and I'm saying peace. Later, guys. See you soon.